Welcome.
Hello.
I'm Adria.
I'm Andrea, and welcome back to the Chronic Hustle.
Hey, girl.
Yay. Welcome to episode 8.
9.
No. 7, 8. Oh, it is 9. Wow. Okay. I'm really bad at keeping these in chronological order.
It's all good.
Okay. Yeah.
It's all
Wow.
good.
Episode 9.
We've made it.
We are going to be talking about advocacy today, advocating for yourself. And it's going to be a wonderful episode.
It's one of my favorite topics.
But before we get into that, we're going to go into our sparkly box of... Nice. I usually do the
you do
singing, and she does the percussion, but we switched it up. She is shaking up the box.
It's really for
She's
me
about to
reach
and ask the question. Ooh, I don't even know what I wrote. What did I write?
This girl asked me, what are some of your favorite words?
Oh, yeah. You know what made me say that? Because of what the word that we just talked about. Okay, favorite words.
What word?
Copacetic.
Oh my God.
So for years and years, I thought that copacetic was copacetic. It's not, you guys. That's one of my favorite. That's one of my dad's favorite words. It'll be like, Dad, how you doing? Everything's copacetic, and like
you say it with a T, don't he?
Copacetic. But my dad also says things like sandwich. Gotta go get me a sandwich.
My dad be like Chicago.
Oh,
like, there's no R in Chicago.
He does that too, or he'll be like, I have an ideal.
Or salmon. You don't pronounce the L.
Side note, I said salmon for years.
Oh.
Okay, but also favorite words. I love the word. Yeah, we got off subject. It's no dads. One of my favorite words is indubitably.
Ew. What does that even mean?
Why did she say ew?
What does that mean? I don't know. I don't like it.
It's like
indubitably. I don't like that.
It rolls indubitably.
What does that mean?
It means like, yes, of course. It's like an agreement.
Okay.
Indubitably.
Okay.
Yeah. I like the word splendid.
Oh, I like that.
Splendid is nice. I love fantastic.
Okay. Essentially.
Ooh, that's nice.
I like that word. What other words do I like? I never thought about that.
I love the word cultivate. Najee.
I love cultivate.
Yeah, she's like, one of my friends is like about that word. Cultivate.
That's a good question. I've never thought about that. I don't know. I love words though.
You do.
I love
You're really good with your words.
Mm-hmm. But I don't ever pay attention to the words that I use.
I have a whole list in my notes of like words that I want to continue to include in my vocabulary. And then I go back and I'm like, damn it, I do not use these words and they're so good.
Just the fact that you have can we share that list?
Yeah, I gotta find it. I'll find it and we'll
post it in our stories.
Yeah, like cool words. Andrea's cool words. I have a whole list of them. Yes. I do. They're literally, and then I have like a page in a notebook of just words that I like.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I think the only word I really like mess with is essentially. That's really it.
Yeah.
I've never thought about that. Okay.
I like cuss words.
I love to cuss.
She does really good on here, y'all. I feel like I'm the only one cussing.
No.
I be cussing like crazy.
Andrea, before we got on the podcast, was like, you're so on brand on your social media. Like, I don't, like, you're not really, like, seeing, like, how I really am. But it's just, like, a censorship that occurs when I get on my Instagram. And I think that just stems from, like, being in the field I'm in is, like, oh, no, if they see me out here cussing, will they come to my classes? And then I realized, like...
You know what? I was the same way. And then as I started, like, I cussed in front of a couple of students at the studio, like, just like in the lobby. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And they were like, no, this shows me that you're human. I like you more now. Like, he literally said that. And I was like, oh. And I always thought it was cool to take some yoga teacher classes who cuss. Like, one lady, she just cussed, but it was a New York class. So, of course, if you don't cuss and you're teaching in New York, it's like,
are you really from New York?
Are you really? Yeah.
Right.
So it was kind of cool. It's cool, finding that balance, being authentic.
Sprinkle a couple cuss words as they come naturally into. I really only start to cuss when I get really passionate about something or when I'm really talking about some shit that makes me,
Yeah.
and most of the time on my social media, I'm not really talking about anything too aggressive.
Yeah, that's
but
true. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Okay, well, thank you for that question. That was
Absolutely.
a great question.
Okay. So, icebreaker, done. Check. We transition into the subject of advocacy. We're going to talk about a couple of our worst experiences, some of our best experiences with advocating for ourselves as patients or supporting people. And then we'll also offer some tips and pointers on what worked really well for us. And then we can share some resources and how we learned how to advocate for ourselves. And so moving forward, I'll start first. Yeah. I can share one experience, two experiences where I felt like where my voice was kind of taken. And one, I was 19. And I was with a loved one at the hospital, and we were in the ER, and she was experiencing symptoms that she didn't know what was happening, but these symptoms were dire enough for her to be there.
Right.
And I was confused. I didn't have a lot of knowledge about what was happening. And so this doctor came in and he was, doing the physical assessment. And I could see that she was uncomfortable and I didn't know how to speak up. I didn't know how to make her feel more comfortable. I just kind of felt like I was just there witnessing this interaction happen, and I felt like I didn't have anything to offer. I just felt like a plant just standing there, and I was like unable to contribute. Right. And so I just felt lost in that moment, and I can say like I didn't know how to be supportive of her in that time. So I felt like that was one instance where not necessarily my voice was taken away from me, but it was access. Lost. Yeah, I had nothing. I had nothing to pull from. I just was witnessing, and I was scared.
Yeah.
And then, would you like me to share the other?
You want me to
go? I can share. This one is really quick. Well, no, yeah. Go ahead, and then my other one will transition to a different.
Yeah, I would say what I'll share will be not necessarily like a story, but more of like a time frame in which like I had no voice, but I was developing a voice. So really early on after my diagnosis, because I was a minor, every doctor appointment, my mom was there. My mom was my advocate.
Right.
But I was very much so when we would be at home, I would be like, I was advocating for myself at home, and then we get into the doctor's office, and I became quiet because I didn't have a voice. My mother was supposed to be my voice, and there was a contradiction. My mother wanted me on medicine, and I didn't want to be on medicine.
Right.
And so her advocacy was, she tried, but she was, I could tell her so this is more of her advocacy for me. Mm-hmm. This is what this story would be. And I could tell when we finally would get to the doctor, it was like a internal conflict for her of wanting to honor her daughter's wishes, but also do what was best simultaneously. And so I just remember feeling like I can't wait to be able to speak up for myself.
Yeah, wow.
That's how I remember feeling like I can't wait until I'm the one who gets to decide what happens to me. And they would give me medicine, and then I get home and I wouldn't take it. So like I just remember just feeling like trapped in a way, but also free in a way. But I wasn't getting the care that I really wanted. It was just like you're either on medicine or you're not, and those were like the only options. It was never like a conversation. And my mom. And my mom might listen to this episode. I love you. Don't take this the wrong way. But my mother was a little weaker in advocating for me, you know? She was more adept to, like, listen to the doctors, whereas me, felt like my rebellious spirit when I would go into the doctors. I was mean to my doctors. From, like, 12 to 18, before I was going to the doctor on my own, Dr. Truman, bless his soul, he probably hated me because I would come up in there and just be like, I'm not doing nothing that he says. I barely would speak to him. So that's kind of like, I wouldn't say it was a worst or a best experience. It was just an experience in my life where I knew that I needed to speak up for myself, but I didn't have the permission.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, and then being a kid, you're taught that it's actually not your place.
Yeah.
Right.
So that actually reminds me of an experience where, you know, I knew I was experiencing anxiety, and so I went into a therapist, or I don't know who I saw, but, you know, I was like, okay, I'm experiencing this anxiety. I need some tools, some things of ways of management. And this person was just like, okay, are you experiencing, you know, depression? Do you have these thoughts, whatever, and literally asked me like a couple, like 5 to 10 questions, and then he wrote me a prescription for Xanax and sent me on my way. And like, literally, I was like, I'm telling you that I have anxiety. I also have anxiety, like ingesting things, and now you're telling me to ingest something for my anxiety. Like, so I went home. I didn't fulfill that. I didn't fill that prescription because it didn't make sense to me.
Exactly.
And how addictive Xanax can be. Like benzos. How dare you do that?
Absolutely.
Without knowing anything about me.
Right.
It blew my mind, and I didn't know how to speak up and say, no, that doesn't make sense. Why would you give me that? Yeah. I want to talk to somebody who can blah. Exactly. I wish that I had that. Another experience that I had, I was with my friend who was in labor, and a resident came in, and, you know, the resident checked to see how far she was dilated, and then the resident left, and then maybe about like not even 5 minutes later, another resident came in and immediately started like saying, well, I want to check because, you know, he checked, but I want to check because I'm better at it than him. And I see that you're in a lot of pain, and I see that you're da-da-da-da-da. And then just started like spewing these things on my friend. Like, I see that you're in pain. I see that you're uncomfortable. So I want to do this so that we can move this situation along. And we all just stop and look like, hold on, why are you trying to say? And now, oh, this is me now.
Right. This is
So I'm going to transition into a moment of advocacy, because I saw her trying to rule take control of the energy in the room by portraying my friend as
and projecting.
Yeah, there we go.
A bit,
projecting these thoughts like, okay, you're uncomfortable, you're in pain, and I was like, okay, first of all, and we all spoke up.
She's in labor. Of course she's uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Of course she's in pain.
Okay, but we're not speaking that upon her.
Right.
You know? And so that's one thing. 2, keep your other, residents, all the residents, y'all, I respect you. But at this moment right now here with my friend, there's going to be no more experimenting on her. Period. You can do that elsewhere. I'm all for everyone, learning and all of that. But right now in this experience, we're not open to it.
Yeah.
Period. So that young man did not come back into the room. And then 3, we were like, whatever you're trying to do, you're going to have to come back.
Yeah.
Because we just experienced something and we're good. Come back. Let's let her labor a little bit more, and then you can come back.
Yeah.
And she was fine with that. So we all spoke up, me, her mom, and we as a team.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had to stand our ground, hold on, back up.
Yeah, and you know what, when you're in the hospital and when you're already dealing with something as crazy as, giving birth, and not crazy in a sense, just a life-altering experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's those added personalities, and like you said, we respect that you're learning all these things, but it's the humanity has to come first.
Yes.
In the room, and that's where advocacy really I feel like that's where advocacy lives, is in humanity. That is that ability to speak up and say, we're having a human experience, back up.
Yeah.
Because you want to have a medical experience.
Period.
No, we're having a human experience, and I think that can come into so many different aspects of our lives. And I'm really glad that you told that story, because I think I had like I don't ever want to say like worst or best experience. 'Cause like I told you, I told you, like, sometimes I feel like my best experiences are in my worst experiences.
Yeah. Right.
So one that just came to mind that I did not think I was going to share this, but I don't know if it was earlier this year. It probably was like early this year. I was working a full-time job at a small business. And when I say full-time job at a small business, I was working at least at minimum 60 hours a week for somebody else. I have a chronic illness that is my main priority, and I had to get a colonoscopy. And anyone that knows anything about colonoscopies, you have to prep for your colonoscopy a day before, sometimes 2. And so I took 2 days away from work. One for my prep, where you're going to the bathroom all day long, and you have to drink all these fluids. And then the second day for my scope. And I made this job aware of this, and it's a small business. So what I want people to understand is I'm in direct contact with my CEO. Like, the person that hires, fires, she is my point of contact. There's no one in between us, nothing. And I remember letting them know, like, a month ahead, I have this scope, I need these 2 days. I'd work from home the day of my prep. That's getting a lot from somebody.
That is.
When they're having to literally, they're not allowed to eat, and you want me to work. Like, it just is, it's amazing. And I remember the day of my prep, the CEO was like blowing up my phone and asking why I wasn't at work, why I was working from home. Yep. Complete violation of 1, space, and 2, understanding. And I remember, like any other time in my life, I think I would have either gotten emotional or responded in an emotional way, but I really just rooted down, and she was like texting me this on top of it, completely inappropriate and unprofessional. And I just let her know, first of all, I let you know this a month ago. Here's the proof. Second, I'm preparing for a scope, which means that I'm going to the bathroom. And I got very vulgar in my text about what happens when you go to the bathroom. Because one thing that I think is really important about advocacy, like what you just said, is keeping it so real. Yeah. Like, the thing that prevents us from advocating for ourselves is the discomfort within ourselves.
I was going to say that. Go ahead, speak on it.
Okay? So when you're uncomfortable, it's like this bulge. Like, you feel like you can't speak.
Yes.
But what we really have to do is flip it and be willing to make others uncomfortable.
Period.
And so I sent her a text that would make her feel, I'm sorry, but terrible about herself. To ever approach me in that way, to ever feel that way. And she ended up calling me, and you could hear the remorse in her voice. But it's like, I think about all the people that have just talked to me about their jobs and how their jobs don't care about them. We don't even advocate for ourselves. We go to work sick. Like, people that go to work sick, I'm like, yo, like, you have to speak up that you're not okay, that you're not this. But that was a moment in which I felt like, even if you knew I had a colonoscopy the next day, you should be like, hey, how are you? Not, why are you not at work? And what I want to encourage in this moment is that you have to be willing to make other people uncomfortable. Yeah. In order for self-preservation.
Absolutely.
Period. Like,
so I have a similar experience.
People crazy. I just want to say that. People people out their minds. I'm sorry. But that is,
she usually adds 2 words in front of mine.
I do, yes.
And it really makes me laugh every time.
Out your mind.
She'll do it another day. So yeah, I have 2 experiences, but really quick piggybacking on that moment of feeling uncomfortable. When that resident came into the room, I was shaking, and I felt like it wasn't my place, but I knew that my friend asked me to be there to advocate for her. And so I I literally had to plant my feet, and I had to stand up strong, take a breath, and through all of my discomfort say, no.
Yep, do it with
No.
do it even if your voice shakes.
Yes, and I was nervous. I was nervous in that moment, but I knew that was my job.
Yeah, period.
And so, but yeah, no, I had an experience where I was working. I was a manager at Lululemon, and I came down with the flu, and this flu it literally took me. I was living with my roommates, and they claimed that I wouldn't have died, but I think I would have died in my bedroom. Okay. And I laugh about it, but I genuinely believe that.
I believe you.
My friends, they were like, no, we would have took care of you. I'm like, y'all work 24/7.
Right.
I would have died in my room because I wasn't intaking any nutrients. I was very, very, very sick. So I ended up having to go to my parents' house in Ann Arbor, and I couldn't go into work, obviously.
Right.
And but I was still getting those closing notes at the end of the night, and I was seeing how me not being there was detrimental. And then they started actually talking badly about me in the notes. And so one day I knew that I was on the schedule. I should have still been off. I went into work sick, just like you said. I went into work sick, and I was seething. I was seething because I knew that I shouldn't be there. I was trying to regulate my temperature. I still had a fever. I was sick AF, and I went because I wasn't. I was internalizing that discomfort rather than saying, "Hey, I have to speak up about this." Yeah. And guess what happened? As soon as I walked in, I saw one of the managers who I actually really like, who also is a yoga instructor. And I saw her, and I was like, "Sarah, I'm about to have a panic attack. Talk me through it." Mm-hmm. And she brought me to the back, and I immediately had a panic attack because my body was in so much distress. Yep. And literally it was like, the breath was taken away from me, and I couldn't breathe. And she talked me through it all, and then I got sent home, obviously. Exactly. And then when I got home, just like you said, your best experiences turn into your worst experiences turn into your best. From that moment, I wrote an email to the full management staff and was like, I am incredibly sick, and I need the support of the management team to cover these shifts. I cannot reach out and try to do this and get better. So period. Y'all have to do that.
That's self-advocating right
yes. There. And from that moment, everyone, they apologized. Yeah. And guess what? We cut our budget on payroll because I wasn't there. So we did well that month.
Right, because it's the humanity.
Well, yeah. It took them seeing me that sick though.
Yeah, and that's such an important point, is like the need for advocacy personally, but also for others. Yeah. To advocate, to be understanding, to know, and to also respect. And also, if you're so sick that I'm really, really big on like the aspects of, if you're sick, what good could even come from
I should
you?
not have even
you
been
have
driving.
Not even been driving.
I was so sick that my vertigo while I was driving, I don't know how I made it there.
Like, they could send somebody in your place. Like, we have to stop acting as if us not showing up somewhere physically is like the end of the world. Yeah. It's like, we're human beings. Our bodies get sick. Just like your cars break down, our cars get flat tires, things stop working, technology stops working, and we have an understanding for that. But the minute our physical bodies are a little bit held up, it's like all of that understanding goes out the window, and that's when we start to get into our tips and our pointers on how to advocate. And I feel like we kind of have touched on them.
Absolutely. But you know what, really quick, and it can't just be advocacy for ourselves. Yes, that's critical, but you have to advocate for people that you love. When you see someone who is trying to go to work and they have the flu, speak up.
You don't tell them to sit down.
You have to advocate for them. because sometimes they can't see it for themselves.
Yeah, especially if you're trapped in that mindset, like I have to be there, I have to do this, or you're getting pressure from your management, from people who don't care.
Right.
You gotta be like, yo, I think that you should probably rest.
Yeah.
The work will be there. Like the work isn't going anywhere.
You'll be there. My physical therapist, him telling me to chill was him being my advocate. Chill.
It's all good.
And so advocacy is for people. Sometimes you have to see what they can't see.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then for yourself.
And you and I, we advocate for each other all the time.
And hey, stop. No.
Yep, that's not necessary. Or sometimes, I remember when I finally quit that job, I had to teach that evening, and I just called Andrea and I was like, hey, listen, I can't teach both of those classes because energetically I just didn't have it in me. It was not an ideal way of leaving a job, and I just was like, I don't have everything that I need for my students. And she was like, got you. I'll teach that's advocacy. That's standing by somebody's side. And being present, and also advocating for myself.
Yeah, you spoke
obviously.
up.
Absolutely.
You spoke up, and I was just sure, I got you.
I don't play that no more.
Yeah,
I don't play that
same,
no more.
Same.
I don't play it.
Yeah, and one day I was like, okay, I'm gonna come in and be there for you for your class. You're like,
girl, if you don't stay asleep at 6
a.m. We were talking about ghosts.
Yeah,
I was like, I'll be there to protect you from the ghosts.
Yeah,
and
we were talking about some shit. I was like, girl, you could just stay asleep. It's all good.
I was like, okay.
So really quick, I just want to give. I'm gonna be really quick with my pointers.
Okay.
And mine are one pointer for me, especially in talking about doctors or hospitals or people.
Yeah.
And Andrea gave great advice on just saying what you feel, but also I read online, just on Twitter, this girl was like, you can actually especially for women of color and black women, this is especially for y'all, or for us. If you need treatment or you go to a doctor and you know that something is wrong and your doctor ignores you or treats you like you don't know what you're talking about, because that will happen once in your life, you can just let them know, okay, well, can you please write down in my chart that you're refusing to treat me? Can you write that down? And I bet you these motherfuckers will get right into order, because that's really what I wanted to say. They'll get right into order. And then my second piece of advice is that if you're not getting what you need from a doctor, switch providers. Don't be afraid to do it.
Period.
I have done it several times where it's like, you know what? You don't work for me. I want a new one. I've done it in the moment at an appointment. I've had U of M call me to apologize on the behalf of doctors. Because when patients aren't doing it, it's not being done. People are literally going to the doctor and just adhering to everything that they say.
Yeah.
You know your body better than anyone could ever. And y'all, it is snowing.
It's snowing. I know. I saw that and I was shivering. It's cold.
Go ahead, girl.
So yeah, with that, I have that on there. Trust your body.
Yes.
Trust your body. Get to know your body. And with that, for me, it was helpful to have my journaling, to have to write down my symptoms, to recognize patterns, seeing changes, seeing things, how they might change over time, the trajectory of these symptoms, and knowing them and being able to speak very clearly about them. And you have to be able to do it very efficiently. Sometimes, I know doctors can be very people can lose track of thought, or
absolutely,
and then they can kind of tune out. So I want to be able to right away be able to give my symptoms clearly. It's very hard. That's a hard thing to do when you're experiencing a vast array of symptoms. But being able to really drive it home with bullet points and, okay, you want me to explain further? Okay, I can explain further now. So keeping those notes, I think that it's really important to go to therapy, because that way you're able to separate or to be able to objectively look at things, because sometimes our feelings and our emotions can get tied into our symptoms, our pain, and then it's hard to talk about those things.
And it's harder to advocate for yourself when you're driven by your feelings.
Yes, when you have a lot of emotion behind it, and so it's really important to be able to have those tools to work with with your emotions and into advocating for yourself. And then and I wrote down here, do the work, and it's kind of just like, it's almost like a fluff kind of thing, but it's important, and that's the things that everybody suggests. Like, oh, make sure you drink the water, make sure that you do this, make sure you do that, and make sure, I think it's important to do those things that are healthy for you, take the vitamins, whatever, or do them or not do them, but know your reasoning why.
Absolutely.
And that way when people give you these suggestions on what they believe, like when people like flippantly give you these suggestions on how you should heal, how they think you should heal your body, you can immediately be able to respond rather than kind of internalize those moments. You can kind of be like, oh, I've done that. Thank you for that suggestion, but that didn't work for me.
Absolutely.
I'm glad that worked for you, but that didn't work for me.
Right.
So we need to look at other options, or mind your business if it's not a professional medical provider. And then and advocacy is outside. It's not just the medical field. It's not you as a patient. Granted, we're talking about chronic conditions, but that can start with, I was just thinking of how many times I've been at a restaurant and my food has come out wrong.
It's speaking up for yourself.
And that's when I've had friends who've been able to advocate for me, like, send her food back. This is not right.
I'm letting y'all know I'm like the queen of like saying,
oh yeah, you sent your food back when we went to brunch.
I don't play.
Yeah. So,
do you want to?
a couple of resources. The number one resource for me, EDS, was the Ehlers-Danlos website. Through that website was how I found my physical therapist. Right. And that's how I found a support group, a local support group of people with similar conditions. And so I was able to talk to people and share experiences and learn about things within my EDS community and how I can find more ways of managing it. Right. So that was my biggest resource, was simply the Ehlers-Danlos Society website.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll link
research.
That.
Research as resource. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let us know if you guys have had any experiences in which you felt like your voice wasn't heard or you didn't have access to your voice, or when you spoke up for yourself. Yeah, you spoke up for yourself.
And you know what? I do think there's a breakthrough moment. Once you experience that moment of
you never
standing
go
up,
back.
you don't.
You never go
You
back.
don't. Because there's a new level of strength that you have, and you're like, I am not for this bullshit
and you
anymore.
realize that the world didn't end because you spoke up for yourself.
And guess what? You get stronger and stronger every time. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be comfortable, but you will get stronger.
And you will weed out the people that ain't with it. Ain't with you speaking up for yourself.
Yeah.
And if you can weed them out.
And it's easy. You're just like, okay, bye.
Okay, cool.
On to the next.
Exactly. So thank you all so much for joining us for episode 9, Advocacy. Follow us at The Chronic Hustle.
Yes.
Adria Moses.
Andrea Mahal.
And email us at thechronichustle@gmail.com. And we'll see y'all soon. Peace.